Hello, this is RJB-Mallacore, and one of the things I've been asked quite a bit was to do a Q&A, so I decided to go to my fans and do up a small list of some of the most common questions, and here they are today. So starting with number 1, how did you first get into art and 3D modeling? And sort of this ties in with it. What inspired your passion of making customized ships? So for myself, the thing that got me into art and 3D modeling was probably Babylon 5. It was, for me, my first dive into CGI in a TV series, and there was such a diversity in models and creativity, and at the time I felt that it was some of the best battle scenes I've seen to that point. And expanding from that, the part that got me into 3D modeling is I'm a member of a web forum, Space Battles, and back when it originally started, the owner, he used to do versus battles of Star Wars, Babylon 5, Star Trek, and it was sort of wowed me that somebody could do this themselves and do something that would be equivalent, or at least from an amateur level, to what you would see in these TV series. So that's sort of my starting point into 3D modeling and art. And what sort of inspired me to do my own ships is a lot of these series came to an end, and there was so many, I guess you could call what ifs, and for me, coming up with my own designs was my way to imagine, what the possibilities if the show continued. Like, obviously my big thing is Stargate, and we've seen a few ships in the show, and for me it's sort of thinking of, if the show continued, if humanity kept developing, what could we do, what could we develop? So moving ahead to number 2, what was your favorite project to work on? Now, that always changes. I guess the easy answer is the ones that I'm currently working on, because those are the ones that I'm sort of engaged with at the moment, and most of them are pretty stimulating. But as far as newer sort of projects, one of my favorite is the Abydos. The concept behind it was a modular ship from Stargate to fill in sort of a smaller ship role, for the simple fact that we're building these big ships which take time, and humanity's always in danger. So this was my solution to sort of expand our fleet while making it diversified. So you have a core ship, then, and different side modules can be exchanged to basically give that ship different mission capabilities. In this configuration, it has a gunship module, which basically increases its firepower and makes it a better support vessel. In the future, I'm hoping to add sort of like a heavy weapon setup, and even some sort of like a troop transport configuration for it. And then as far as some of my other favorite ones, like one of the ones that brought me back into 3D design, because I did take quite a bit of break from it, was the Phoenix. So I had this one sort of half done for I think almost 10 years, and people kept on asking me, are you ever going to finish it? So I sat down one day and started tinkering with it, and the bug sort of popped back in me, and that sort of got me back into 3D modeling. And then probably the next one to that is the Explorer from Babylon 5. It's a ship that doesn't show up much in the show, but for me it played quite a big impact, because it was quite a large vessel. It had quite a mechanical design, which for me I find very attractive, and so I decided to do my own rebuild of it and give it my own twist, and it's been probably one of my favorite models that I've showed off over the last little while. So moving on to question 3. What is your favorite scene and render? Again, those are always changing. I think if I'm going recently, this Star Wars one that I did, I decided to do a little experimentation with backgrounds. So I wanted to add like a lunar surface with a gas giant in the background, and everything sort of flowed together, and I was very happy with the composition, colors, and sort of the feel of action in the scene. So for me, this has sort of been, a little bit of a forward moving step recently. And then as far as some past ones, the Endeavor. Again, this is a background by Graham TG. So sort of using his background in the ship, I sort of had it fading in, coming out of the fog of the nebula back there. And for me, it had such a very dynamic and dramatic presence, and so that one sort of stuck in my mind. One of the other ones, and this is sort of an older one, is again the Phoenix. And for me, Phoenix Rising, so I wanted something where you have a planet coming apart, exploding in the background, and the Phoenix escaping out from the fire, and that very dramatic tie-in with the end of the Asgard, with their world exploding and being humanity taking on Asgard technology. I wanted the ship to sort of raise from that sort of fire and be representation of us sort of carrying on the mantle and moving forward from the Asgard from Stargate. So question number 4. What were your quickest and longest projects? So quickest ones are usually just small models like this. This was a little maintenance ship that I did to sort of go with my Stargate project. And pretty simple design, and I think I put it together in only a few days. So little ships like this are pretty quick, but they're sort of good to fill in, expand the universe a bit. And then the longest, sort of the Phoenix, but not fully its fault, just simply for the fact that I started to do it years and years back, ended up with a 10-year gap in between, and then decided to finish it off. So you don't get too much longer than that. So question 5. What was the funniest mistake made on a renderer model? Well, I don't think there's too many funny mistakes that happen. Usually when I oopsie, it takes a while to fix, so I think they're a little more frustrating than funny most of the time. And usually when it comes to rendering, mistakes tend to turn out to be interesting ideas where you just come up with a weird effect that you might be able to use at some point in the future. Like, nothing specific pops into mind because they sort of became part of the common workflow that I do. So let's see, number 6. Did any of your projects seem not worth the effort at the time, but now you're glad you saw them through? I think each of my projects, all of them were worth it to me, just because every single one you learn something new. And you learn how to do things better and quicker. If I had to sort of say that there was a point in time that things felt like it wasn't worth it, is sort of when I originally started out, and your skills are pretty basic and you're just happy to put something simple together, and you're showing them off, and you get positive feedback, but criticism is always hard, and it takes a while to learn how to take criticism, because not all of it's constructive criticism, which actually helps you. So, once I sort of learned to, toughen up my skin a little, all the projects were all worth it, because every single one of them you learn something from. So let's see, number 7. Do you listen to music while making models and art? If so, what bands or genres do you prefer while working? I do tend to listen to music. It's a wide variety of different things. I don't really have a specific genre. I'll do anything from classic rock to pop music to almost anything in between. I think the biggest thing that I sort of do when I'm working on a model is I've started to do audiobooks, because I just haven't had too much time to actually read physical books. So I'll put those on in the background and listen, and it just sort of helps stir the mind a bit while you're working. Okay, number 8. Have you considered collaborating with any of the tabletop STL creators to make more printer-friendly models, scale variation, pre-supported, hollowed, etc., even if it is a very distant goal at this point? Well, as far as 3D printing, I'm still sort of learning as I'm going. Like, I'm definitely open to taking advice from other individuals that are more experienced in the area, and if somebody had was sort of interested in collaborating and they had some sort of interesting project that I felt that we could sort of work together with, then I would definitely be open to actually doing a collaboration. Okay, let's see, number 9. Do you have any plans to make your own original full fleet of ships, fighters to star bases, instead of the occasional few? Well, I do want to sort of do my own universe original ships, I guess you'd say, or even just original universe, so that's sort of on the planning board. It's just sort of figuring out the setting and then figuring out how to build everything else around that, and I haven't really come up with a setting that I'm 100% happy with at this point. So most of the models that I've done that have been original have been one-offs, just because it's sort of my way to dip my toes into that self-imagination. Like, I think as far as what I'll probably end up doing in the future is I do have a large enjoyment for things like megastructures. So I want to try to incorporate that into a universe, kind of like a universe full of derelicts and leftover debris from civilizations vast and far beyond, and basically, build it around the people that are surviving in those environments and basically living off the scraps of what came before. Let's see, number 10. Will you be doing any more book covers or takes on doing your renders of ships described from any sci-fi books? Well, I do want to try out doing more book covers in the future, so we'll probably see that down the line. And obviously I'm listening to more books on audio, so I do perceive doing books from different sci-fi books in the future. I'm a huge fan of Ian M. Banks' Culture series, so I can see that being one possibility in the future. Okay, let's see, number 10. We're on, so let's go on to number 11. Are you planning on doing more Asgard or ancient ships from Stargate? Asgard I would like to do in the future, just I don't have any specific hard plans for them. Like, I would probably try to do like a space station or something along that line. And ancient ships, I do have a lot of designs that I've started years back that sort of been on the back burner that I would like to revisit. So here's sort of a couple of them. So this is basically part of a space station. So there would be sort of 3 of these sections that would be built around a central spiral, and basically there'd be ship berths that, larger ships would just sort of slide into. And then here's a couple sort of designs of smaller ships that I started, and they're been left in sort of that basic aspect, and so I would like to pick them up again and finish them off in the future. Okay, number 12. Do you have plans to make models from other series? Yeah, I would like to do some other series. Space and Above and Beyond would be one. I'd like to sort of do my own modernized version of the Saratoga. I'd also like to do some stuff from Red Dwarf. Again, those are sort of series that I grew up with. And I definitely wouldn't mind expanding out a little bit more. Just not fully sure which ones I'll do at this point. It's like I'm trying to get projects that I have started done, so it'll be sort of in between and around those. But definitely those two would be the big ones, Space Above and Beyond, and I definitely wouldn't mind doing something with Red Dwarf at some point in the future. Number 13. If you were to pick one of your ships to command, which one would it be? Well, most people would choose probably the biggest, baddest ship, which would probably be the Excalibur. But my mindset is, the Excalibur would play the part of a flagship, and so it'd be not necessarily doing the most exciting missions of all. It would basically be supporting a battle group, and then, if things go really wrong, it would be sent out. So if I really had to pick, I probably would go with the Phoenix, just because it'd be your standard go out there, explore, and do things, and it would actually be, in the thicket, fun kind of ship to be on. Plus, it is, pretty much armed to the teeth. You have drone launchers on the ship. You have Asgard beam weapons. It's basically a tough little ship. Let's see, number 14. If you could live in any universe, Stargate, Farscape, Trek, etc., which would it be and why? Well, a lot of the universes would be, fun to live in from the perspective of the shows that we watch. But I think reality is I would choose Trek just for the simple fact that access to ships would be probably more easy for the individual, and being able to have a ship of your own would be more of a possibility. Because, I imagine most people would want to be traveling around the universe, exploring, having adventures, and, Trek I can see sort of being that setting. Farscape, probably wouldn't be the funnest place to be as a random individual. Stargate, chances are you'd just be a person on Earth and not even know the gate exists. So Trek is probably my best bet to have the adventures that I would like to have. So that sort of brings us to the end of this Q&A, and hopefully I can do a few more in the future and go over some more questions. So feel free to pass those questions on to me. Here's the various sites that I sort of frequent. So we have Facebook, we have Devon and Art, ArtStation, and if you do want to support my art, you can visit me over on my Patreon page. It is appreciated because it does help with software upgrades, and hopefully my plan for next year is to start doing some, very needed hardware upgrades. So thank you for listening, and appreciate the time that you've given me, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight into what I do and the things that I sort of enjoy and like to share with everybody. Thank you.